Hi there. Today we're going to talk about a truck that feels less like a vehicle and more like an engineering experiment that accidentally changed the future. This is the Jeffery Quad 4x4, built in 1916, a machine that arrived so early to the idea of off-road transport that nobody even had a proper name for that concept yet. Long before words like all-terrain or military logistics vehicle became common, the Quad was already living that life every single day. To understand why the Jeffery Quad is so unusual, you have to forget everything you know about roads. In the 1910s, roads were not infrastructure, they were suggestions. Mud, deep ruts, stones, snow, sand, and broken ground were normal conditions, not exceptions. Horses and mule teams were still the primary method of hauling military loads, and early trucks often failed spectacularly once they left paved surfaces. The Jeffery Quad was created specifically to solve this problem, not with brute force, but with intelligence. The truck was developed by the Thomas B. Jeffery Company in Wisconsin, later known as Nash. From the beginning, the engineers took a radically different approach. Instead of simply adding more power, they focused on traction, control, and geometry. The result was a truck that looked simple on the outside, but was astonishingly complex underneath. The most famous feature of the Jeffery Quad was its drivetrain. This was not just a four-wheel drive truck. Power was delivered to all four wheels, and on many versions, all four wheels could also steer. That combination alone was almost unheard of at the time. Four-wheel steering allowed the Quad to turn far tighter than trucks of similar size, making it surprisingly agile in forests, narrow paths, and crowded supply areas. For a military vehicle built in 1916, this was almost science fiction. But the real magic happened at the wheels. The Quad used hub reduction gearing at each wheel. This meant that torque multiplication happened directly at the hubs, instead of putting massive stress on the drive shafts and differentials. In simple terms, the truck could crawl forward under heavy load without tearing itself apart. This design choice made the Quad incredibly durable and gave it enormous pulling ability despite its modest engine output. Under the hood sat a four-cylinder petrol engine built by Buda. Displacement was about 5.1 liters. Power output was roughly 28 horsepower. By modern standards, that number sounds almost laughable, but horsepower was never the point. The Quad was designed to move slowly, steadily, and relentlessly. Torque figures are not officially documented in reliable period sources, and rather than inventing a number, it is more honest to say this. Everything about the Quad was engineered to multiply available force through gearing, not through engine output. The engine worked with the transmission and hub gears as a system, not as a standalone powerhouse. The gearbox offered 4 forward gears, and combined with the reduction gearing, it allowed the truck to crawl at extremely low speeds while pulling heavy loads. Maximum speed was only around 32 kilometers per hour, about 20 miles per hour. That was not a limitation, it was a design decision. The Quad was not meant to race, it was meant to arrive. Braking was another area where the Quad stood far ahead of its time. It featured braking on all four wheels, something many vehicles would not adopt until decades later. Combined with engine braking and transmission resistance, this gave the driver far better control on slopes and uneven ground. In an era when many trucks struggled just to stop reliably, the Quad treated braking as a serious engineering priority. Dimensionally, the truck was compact but purposeful. Overall length was about 5.1 meters, roughly 16.7 feet. Width measured around 1.9 meters, about 6.2 feet. Height was approximately 2.2 meters, or 7.1 feet, depending on configuration. The proportions were carefully chosen to balance stability with maneuverability. This was not a tall, top-heavy vehicle. It was planted, deliberate, and stable. Weight played a crucial role in how the Quad performed. Curb weight was around 2,400 kilograms, roughly 5,300 pounds. Payload capacity was approximately 1,360 kilograms, about 3,000 pounds. That placed it in what we would today call the 1.5-ton class. Again, the numbers do not tell the full story. Thanks to traction and gearing, the quad could move loads that stopped other vehicles cold.
In military service, the Jeffery Quad became legendary. During the First World War, it was heavily used by Allied forces, especially in environments where mud defeated traditional transport. It hauled ammunition, artillery components, supplies, and equipment through conditions that destroyed ordinary trucks. In many cases, it replaced entire teams of horses. This was not glamorous work, but it was decisive. Wars are not won by speed alone, they are won by logistics, and the Quad excelled at exactly that. The Quad also saw service beyond Europe. It was used by the United States Marine Corps in various operations during the 1910s, including expeditions where infrastructure was minimal or non-existent. Once again, its ability to function without roads made it invaluable. What makes the Quad even more fascinating is that it was not a short-lived experiment. Production continued for years, and many examples remained in service long after the war. This longevity speaks volumes about the quality of its design. Complex systems only survive hard use if they are well engineered, and the Quad proved that complexity, when done right, can be an advantage rather than a weakness. Of course, the truck was not perfect. Maintenance was demanding. Four-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, and multiple reduction gears meant more moving parts, more lubrication points, and more things that could wear out. Repairs required skill and attention. Fuel consumption was not modest, and speed was never impressive. But these were acceptable trade-offs in exchange for capability that no other vehicle of the time could match. Driving the Quad was an experience unlike anything else in its era. It was slow, deliberate, and physically demanding. Steering input mattered, gear selection mattered, momentum mattered. The truck demanded respect from its driver, but it rewarded that respect with unstoppable progress. Once it started moving, it simply kept going. The true legacy of the Jeffery Quad lies not just in what it did, but in what it inspired. The ideas it introduced, all-wheel drive, advanced steering geometry, torque multiplication at the wheels, and full braking control, became foundational principles in military and off-road vehicle design. Decades later, these concepts would reappear in armored vehicles, heavy tractors, and modern all-terrain trucks. The Quad did not look futuristic. It did not try to impress with speed or comfort. It impressed by refusing to fail. In many ways, it represents a different philosophy of engineering, one where success is measured not by performance figures, but by reliability under the worst possible conditions. So, when you look at the Jeffery Quad today, you are not just looking at an old truck. You are looking at a machine that solved problems before most people even knew how to describe them. It did not follow trends, it created them. If you enjoy deep dives into machines like this, vehicles that were truly ahead of their time, make sure to subscribe. There are many more extraordinary trucks hiding in history, and their stories are just waiting to be told.